Oh no.
So much for that. It's washed out really deep here. Mike, you said this was a challenge. You've already bested me first thing.
So, oh, there's a ditch there, Tim.
Yeah. A ditch bigger than Vinny can cross.
I think we may have some equipment around here to get you out of here, and we're gonna. The good news is, look at the mowing job you did coming in here. That looks immaculate.
You think I'll ever get out, or was this a ploy?
Well, I have been wanting one of these for a while. You just leave it here, I'll take care of it.
We're gonna try to mow this. Let's get started. That's embarrassing. Didn't even get started and got stuck. Well, I saw this ditch and I came down along there and I kept thinking, it'll get better, it'll get better. And then I got right here, there's this huge ledge. And I thought, I gotta cross it right here. In truth, I believe I could have went down a little further. But hey, I don't wanna go tumbling.
Well, first impressions, it definitely has some articulation.
Well, you know, Mike, I've never had a machine that I haven't had stuck.
Well, I'm glad we got this one out of the way.
This one's out of the way.
You
Less
made
than
it
an hour.
like, I don't know, I'll give you 60 feet.
Brand new machine here today.
We might as well get it out of the way right off the bat.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about that.
No need to prolong it. Well, it don't help that it's been raining for 4 days straight.
This is not going to be an easy pull because you're pulling uphill.
And R4 tires are never good in this situation.
We're making all the excuses now, just go make it happen. Wow.
That is an old abandoned electric line. You don't have to cut these, Tim, they don't grow.
Oh, I'm stuck again. And this time I didn't get stuck mowing, I got stuck backing up out of the way of that thing.
Now, as you get that way, it continues to get steeper.
Yeah. So far, it's not been the steepness that's been the issue, it's been all these big washouts.
You'd think a guy that owned an excavating company would do better maintenance down here.
Well, the shoemaker's children.
That's exactly right. All right, let's get you out of here so we can go back at it. Well, you're putting this little monster truck to the test.
Maybe down that way?
Yeah, I think I can get across the
You
ditch.
think you can get around there?
It's not my first day on a 955, Tim.
This one was a foul up on my part. I backed up in a spot that I didn't need to back up into.
There's the overflow pipes right here, so that ditch kind of loops around there a little bit. All this rain did not help our case any.
We made it to the top.
We did make it to the top, Tim.
This is a challenge for little Vinny.
It is. You said you wanted to test for her.
Yeah, and it's going to be a good one. I still think we can get it.
In a situation like this, it's all about studying it, getting a plan, and executing.
Learning the technique you need to use,
And
right?
you need to stay in your comfort zone.
This machine doesn't have quite as much power as the 32 horsepower gas.
I noticed that as you come up the hill there the first time.
Just hardly enough to get the job done.
You got a slope indicator on this. What is the pitch of that
I
dam?
was too busy. I was too busy to be looking at it.
I mean, it's every bit of, I'd say 30 plus.
I would think so. And you know, the bigger challenge so far has been the washouts.
It didn't help that we just had close to 5 inches of rain over the last few days.
You're just trying to up the ante.
I'm trying to.
Degree of difficulty.
I'm trying to hedge the bet in its favor here a little bit, but you did. I mean, the reality of it is you have cleared out an area. You did make it up the dam. We are making progress.
Now, tell me a little bit about how you've mowed this in the past. I've actually seen your videos, but some of our viewers may not.
So as you guys can see, as you pan around, I've got a pretty significant view here. We got about 280 feet of elevation between us and the river, and this hillside, it's all but a drop off.
Yeah.
So what I have done is I have come in here with a dozer. I have cut benches strategically in the bank, and I can reach them with my excavator. So I've got a brush hog mounted on my excavator. It's another one of my fine homemade attachments.
Yeah.
I know how far I can reach down. I know how far I can reach up. So that's where I cut my bench in. And this dam here, if you guys will notice, there's actually a bench right around the bottom. We haven't quite got to it yet. But from there, I can reach halfway up the dam. And then from the top, I can reach the rest of the way down and get it. So the washouts don't bother me because I'm sitting in a seat 30 feet away from the mower, just kind of skimming across the top of them, where you're actually out there driving around with it. So
in them.
In them,
much.
yeah.
I mean, some of them are about as big as Vinny.
Yeah, and my machine is those ditches there you ran over. I'll never even know I went past them. So
I know. Never big enough equipment, do we?
But this is much more readily available to the average Joe than I mean, if you were going to buy that setup new, between an excavator and an attachment, you're probably looking $180,000 to $200,000. I'm guessing this is quite a bit
Or
less.
if you're close enough to Dirt Perfect, you could probably hire him to do that.
This is true. This is true. We do have a very affordable hourly rate.
So were you going to you're going to help me out a little bit, right?
I can. I was going to let you see what you could and couldn't get. But I think we need to maybe put you behind the controls of Trusty there and see what you think.
Maybe we can trade.
That sounds like a good, I'm willing to give the monster truck a try. I've deemed this the little monster truck.
Okay. Well, it sort of looks like it, doesn't it? With all
It
these
kind of crawls around like one. Take a little pass along the front and kind of get the feel for the machine before we get too carried away. Put the blade down and float, kick her on. Definitely rides smooth, I'll give it that.
Now we've put this machine in a pretty tough position, especially for its first 2 or 3 hours. But I already noticed the difference between this machine and the 4500. You just don't hear that whine, that hydraulic whine. There's increased hydraulic capacity in this machine, both in the motors that run the wheels as well as the lift circuits as well. So it feels stronger from a hydraulic standpoint, that's for certain.
I am used to mowing this with a zero-turn lawnmower.
Yeah.
The ride quality on this thing is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the articulation in the middle, the extra tires, just the setup is general.
I think it's the double articulation, right? It's not just this way, it's also this way. And this is not even a suspension seat. They offer a suspension seat. We've got the fixed seat. This is...
That's one of the biggest complaints I have about my zero turn is the ride quality. I think that's a very common complaint. You see all kind of manufacturers trying different tricks to improve that. The ride quality is incredible. The hydrostat, very, very smooth.
Much smoother than the 4500.
Is that the improvement from one model to the other?
Yeah, a little more hydraulic power throughout the whole system.
Okay.
It's got a little bit bigger pump, I think, and we notice it just doesn't whine as much.
No, but it's very, the lever moves easy and the machine responds to your movement. People are not familiar, they do have the pedal option or the hand option. Obviously, I think me and you both like the hand option.
Yeah.
But,
now, if you're mowing out in a big field where you want to go a constant speed, I kind of use the foot pedal like a cruise control.
Kind of set it on there.
You know, you just put your foot on there and maintain
Now,
speed.
I think it's also important to mention, this is my first time ever sitting on a seat. I've got a whole 3 minutes on a Ventrac at this point.
So you're an expert.
So
you're also a YouTuber, so that makes you an expert.
It's also legitimately first impressions. Legitimately first impressions. I feel like I've graduated from the beginner's class. I'm ready to bump it up to the expert class here. But
I don't want to watch over your shoulder. I want you to train me a little bit on your machine.
Now this sounds like a good video.
You can use this one. I want to use that one.
Let's do it. I'll show you. Let's go. So this is a John Deere 120. It has basically a homemade M60 brush hog attachment. This is actually made to go on a 3-point hitch of a tractor.
Yeah, it's a 3-point mower. And you've replaced it with a hydraulic mower.
Well, no, it's actually a hydraulic mower. It's what the county uses for mowing the road banks.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So it'll still fit on the tractor. I just put a coupler on this end for the machine. And it's not flawless, but it works pretty good. As we were discussing, this don't have a dedicated pump for auxiliary hydraulics, so you kind of got to get a rhythm going. As you kind of figure it out, as you get to swinging, you're kind of set up. As you engage the auxiliary hydraulics, it's going to rob some power from your swing. So you kind of got to have a little bit of momentum going. So you kind of got to start swinging. And as soon as you engage this,
the swing won't swing as much, but if I'm already moving,
you're already moving, it'll keep you going. So my only suggestion to you is kind of start in close and don't point the blades at yourself.
Or my wife.
Or yes, that's very important.
So, do you run window closed?
I do run window closed.
For safety.
Unfortunately, this machine does not have AC, so you may get a little bit warm. We do have this fancy fan over here.
Air conditioner right there.
This is air conditioner of the stars right here. We'll even plug you in so you're good to go.
Homemade.
If you keep the implement close to the ground and you don't tilt it back to you, I've had very few things ever hit the windshield. I'm going to let you play at this a little bit, and I'm going to go back to Vinny. Took a few of the weights off the back. I feel like on this hillside with the deck in float mode, I'm not really comfortable with the amount of weight on the front tires, so I'm trying to transfer a little bit of that weight to the front by taking some off the fulcrum behind. Let's see if it's got a little better feel to it here. That is much better without the weight. I feel like I got much more control of the machine, especially with the steering inputs. Oh, we made it.
Now, I'm not an expert hoe operator by any stretch of the imagination, but what experience I do have is with the other control pattern. My brain was totally confused. I could hardly make the thing move. I'm pretty sure I would have been better off not having any hoe experience at all. Even with this handicap, I could easily see the utility of this setup. Meanwhile, Mike's venturing off into some uncharted territory there, I think. Probably last visited by Daniel Boone back in the day. Now, seriously, Mike says he mows this every other year. It's amazing how quick stuff will grow up.
So first off, incredible machine. I'm just blown away by how smooth it is.
Really?
Ride and hydrostat is through the roof. But I did make one major adjustment while I was operating.
Okay.
I took your weights off the rear.
Okay.
I know that sounds counterproductive to what normal theory is, I guess.
It is, except Ventrac told me not to have them on there anyway.
Well, I may have to agree with Ventrac on this. I'll tell you why. Whenever you start to come up the hill, you got the deck in float mode, right?
Yeah.
So you lose that weight on the front.
Yeah.
And as you're driving up the hill, naturally physics wants to take you over backwards. Well, this being a center steer machine, if you get sideways at all, you have no way to straighten it back up because you have
so it's making your front wheels too light.
So little weight on the front. And I come up the hill once over here. I'm not sure if Christy got it, but I got a little sideways to kind of get in that ditch. Well, I couldn't get it straightened back up.
You ended up going back
I
down?
had to turn back around and then going down straight. So I took the weights off, and immediately I had much more control coming up the hill, and I believe I was able to actually even climb in a little steeper places than before because we had some weight on those fronts kind of pulling along. I did see 30 degrees plus on the slope meter at one time. So we're pretty steep for wet conditions.
Yeah. One thing I want to show you, Mike, is this weight transfer. Now, what this does, it's sort of a mechanical linkage in there.
Okay.
And so what it's doing is it says, when you put it in float,
Okay.
do you want the majority of that float weight
In the front?
on the attachment, or do you want to keep it on the tractor? The way I think of it is, how heavy do you want it to float?
Gotcha.
And so I've transferred all the weight to the tractor.
Which in the situation we're in here today, I think that's where it needs to be.
And I think what you're telling me is that still wasn't enough, because I had the weights on the back.
Right. Well,
and that still wasn't enough.
that particular hitch setup, I think you're further behind the rear axle than you are on a conventional machine.
Yep.
And then with the type of steering you have, in our previous conversation, we don't have steer pedals or anything, so our only way of controlling the direction of this is the center steer.
Yep.
And you need close to equal weight on both to get yourself corrected, especially on a steep slope.
Let's talk about that machine. Mike, it's clearly a mowing machine, but I'm not a mowing machine. I don't have the excavator controls. I'm used to the controls being the other way around.
The other way around. And this machine don't have the switch lever or the option lever. I'm not gonna lie, Tim, I first built this thing, it took me a few hours to get the hang of it. There's a technique to it, there's a rhythm to it.
But I've seen you on video and it makes me feel embarrassed. I mean, I watch you on video and you just swing up there. You'd have had this whole thing mowed in the amount of time that I spent right here on this little area.
Yeah, we can move along pretty good. It actually, we did a test one time, I didn't put it on video. We had the 4066 with a 6-foot mower on it and this, and I can cover ground just about as fast.
Wow.
Now he can mow as fast, but what you got to remember for me is I can maneuver. I'm always cutting.
Yeah.
Or with a tractor, you're overlapping and turning an overlap. So it don't seem like you're getting as far because you're not technically moving as much, but you can cover ground fairly quickly with it. And obviously the huge advantage is you can cover ground that you just can't get to with the tractor. Yeah,
there's no question. It doesn't matter what the terrain is. I mean, you can get anything, and you can mow some big stuff. I bet you can mow some 3 and 4 inch stuff with that.
Yeah, 4 inches probably getting. You can chop down a 6-inch one, but it's not something you want to do on a normal basis. 4 inches is probably about your limit.
Well, let's get this thing mowed. We'll get on our native machines and we'll get it mowed. You're probably going to ask why I chose to go sideways on this hill. And I think that's a really good question, so we'll dive into it a little bit here. If you look at the lower left here of the screen, you'll see a really steep, you might call it a ledge, before the bench. You can get a clue just how steep it is by seeing the shadow there. Mike created this bench with a bulldozer, and he left probably a 6 or 8 foot ledge there of 50 degrees, I would guess. If I chose to mow downhill, which is the safest and easiest way to mow, I would encounter that ledge on my way to the bench, and I wasn't excited about that at all. And you saw earlier the difficulty that Mike was having coming straight up the hill. This section is quite a lot steeper than what he was mowing. So going straight uphill, nor going straight downhill, seemed to be good options. So I felt like I had 2 choices. One was to throw up the white flag and tell Mike that he had won. The other option was to try to go sideways. Folks, 30 degrees is steep. Anybody that says any different is telling you a story. Show off. I was just coming up there to get that. I knew it was inevitable. I kept sliding down that hill. I knew I would have to tackle that ledge head on.
Tim is definitely pushing the limits.
That first trip down was a little scary, but I gained confidence. This is a good visual of what happens about 32, 33 degrees. Just can barely stay on the hillside.
At least it waited till the end.
That's true.
And we found it.
I didn't think Vinny's blades were that big.
I would say that's why it's got 2 of them, but it's not very well balanced with just one.
Yeah.
What's the old saying? Stuff happens.
Yeah, and so it looks like the big nut came off.
Yep.
No wonder they tighten those so tight I can never loosen them.
That'd be a pretty good reason, but we found it. No parts lost in this adventure. So
Vinny held his own on this job, but I really don't know that we could have got all of it without your help.
I tell you what, you got considerably more than I thought you were going to. You started getting pretty brave there and going across the hill a few times.
Oh, we
And,
went back and forth and got most of it, but I tell you what, once it decides to go downhill.
Yeah, it's going. It's going. Could you tell a difference with the weights off the back as far as control?
Yes, the truth is I think I need more weights on the front.
I would agree with that.
Because, you know, when you're articulated, it's like the back wheels are grabbing and pulling you downward.
Right, and your front wheels are pointed uphill, but they have enough traction to actually pull you uphill.
Yeah. And I think Ventrac has just introduced chains for the tires. I think they might help, but
I don't know what the spec is on the machine, but I would say this is pretty close to the limit.
30 degrees is the spec.
And I know I've seen it a few times on the slope gauge, so we're there.
I slid at about 33, and I finally puckered at about 38.
So you've seen 38 a few times, huh?
Yeah, but you're not supposed to say that.
Oh,
I don't know.
I see nothing. I was sitting in my seat down there on level ground at about 2 degrees.
You know, the point is, did you ever feel like you were going to roll over?
I did not. I'll be honest with you, I did not. The only time I got uncomfortable, and it's not because I thought I was going to roll over, is whenever I come up the hill and I didn't have control of the front of the machine, and I think a lot of that had to do with the weights in the back, but I never felt like I was in danger of sliding or rolling.
Okay. Well,
And
I would get to the
truth.
point of sliding. You know, I've had this thing on several steep projects, and the only time that I get uncomfortable is when I don't have a bench at the bottom.
To catch you.
Because you start going downhill, there's nothing to stop you. And I've had several times where I've had nothing but a creek at the bottom. So if you're looking at a real steep job, make sure that there's a bench at the bottom, because then you've got something to catch you.
Yep. You got a safety net.
You're not going to roll on this thing.
No, I mean, one thing is the footprint, but the other thing is the center of gravity is very, very low in this machine. Never say never, but highly unlikely.
But you will slide.
You will slide. We've proved that here today.
Now we need to take a look. My center blade may not be cutting very good. I'm wondering if it looks absolutely. Feel these blades. Remember that rock you hit? See if you can find a chink in any blade.
Now this is considered a rough cut deck,
Yes,
correct?
they call it a tough cut.
Tough cut, okay.
It's rated to 2 inches or something. I've cut 4 with it.
One thing to note here is like on a true brush hog, that blade would pivot on this nut. So if you hit something, it breaks away. These are not like that. It's going to hit. The only thing, something mechanically has to give.
Belts.
Belts,
Right.
gotcha.
Instead of gearboxes, they have belts.
Okay.
So
Which that is their shock absorber. That belt is their shock absorber.
And what I don't understand is how, and maybe the belt's what's doing it, but I don't understand with all the stuff we've hit with this over the years. I've never changed these blades.
Really?
I've mowed 4-inch stuff. I've hit rocks just like you did. And I did down here as well, and I don't see even a chink in them. I know they're harder.
I know I hit a couple, maybe 1.5 inches at the most trees down there, and I mean you'd hear them go through, but it sure wouldn't slow it down any.
For a first real job for Vinny here, I think we gave him pretty good workout.
I think we used and possibly abused them.
Oh, don't use that word. We didn't abuse him. Come on.
We used them to full limitation. How's that?
We were pretty rough on him, I think, but
the most impressive part is it's going to leave here in operational order and in one piece. That's more than I can say, Tim.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty impressed. I did notice the additional hydraulic power and the hydraulic force and the smoothness in the hydrostat.
Yeah, that, man, I mean, I've ran a lot of hydrostat stuff, and that is on point. My only critique, and I understand why it is a little more power would definitely not hurt anything, but we're kind of grasping for straws here to really find anything wrong with it.
This is the diesel. Previously, I had the 32 horsepower Kubota gas engine, and it has that extra power. It'll push right on up that hill. The reason they go is to stay sub 25.
Correct.
They just don't have physical space for all the DPF, and so they stay sub 25 on the diesel.
I think some of that has to come down to your application. If you're in, say, a golf course, and every machine you have is diesel, this makes sense to keep a diesel machine in rotation, or vice versa if you're in a, you're all set up with all gas. But
And almost every attachment you don't notice,
Gotcha.
right? I mean, even this attachment's fine up on the flat and level.
Oh yes, coming across the front of the yard over there, the horsepower was not an issue at all.
Well, thanks.
Tall grass and a steep hill is about the only place that's going to get you.
Yeah, I mean, we really pushed it. Thanks for breaking it in for me.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming down. It's been fun, Tim. It's been fun.
Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time on Tractor Time with Tim.